So let's look at digital marketing, right? Okay. It's a bit similar to the 2-1 problem. Lots and lots of people are told to optimize their digital marketing. And what they tend to measure is short-term transactional sales and conversion, because that's the easiest thing to measure. It's also the fastest thing to measure. It's easier and faster to measure. And they measure the cost of advertising against effectively the margin they make from that one-off transaction. Okay. And that is a perfectly rational way to advertise if you want to keep your job, if you're the guy in charge of performance marketing for brand X, right? Because you will always be able to defend your existence. Here's the problem, okay? Can anybody honestly say that, now I do not use ad blockers, okay? It would be, working in advertising, be slightly dubious for me to do so. I don't use ad blockers. I don't surf in incognito mode. I do delete cookies every now and then, but not very frequently. Okay, my browsing behavior, my online behavior is pretty explicit, okay? You know, indeed, short of ringing up Mark Zuckerberg and saying, I'm thinking of buying an electric car, I couldn't have been more explicit about the fact that I wanted to buy an electric car. I watched YouTube films about it. I searched for them. Did I see any ads for electric car brands? Zero, okay? On the other hand, I did buy my daughters a pair of high margin premium tights because I got sick of buying them replacement tights. And I said, well, maybe the expensive ones last longer. So I bought a pair direct from the manufacturer. For the next 5 months, I saw ads for nothing else, right? Now, let's look at this, okay? If digital advertising works, it should work not at the level of keeping a marketing manager his job in terms of head of performance marketing for Walford or Fogel, right? It should work at the level of the individual consumer, where the ads I see should be, broadly speaking, representative of things I either already buy or might consider buying. But actually, I first used the internet in 1986, okay? So I can now say, okay, in the literally 35 years I've been using the frigging internet, I have not seen any improvement in the extent to which the ads I see map onto the direction of travel of the contents of my wallet. In fact, it's the opposite. In the early days of the internet, they did demographic targeting. They said he's online, so he's probably a bloke and he's probably a bit of a nerd. Well, surprise, surprise, I am a bloke and I'm a bit of a nerd. And so the advertising online in 1997 or something was actually not all that bad for me. Not saying it was great if you're female, not saying it was great if you were, not a nerd, okay? But the obsession with stalking individual customers and quantifying and accounting for your response to justify your own job has led to advertising behaviors which are intelligent at the small scale, but completely irrational and absurd and counterproductive and economically damaging at the large scale. Okay, because if advertising is really effective, we'll end up with a world in 20 years' time where everybody's spending 50% of their income on high margin hosiery and they never get around to buying an electric car, right? It's whack, okay? It's not fucking working because it's optimized around the wrong context, okay? And yet, because it keeps people's jobs, what people love is if I can show an incremental improvement of 3% every year, okay? They don't test creative either. And I think why they don't test creative, they've turned it into a targeting optimization game. And I think the reason they've done that is creative might actually be very successful and it would mess up all their models, okay? Because they much prefer 7 years of incremental improvement to having a breakthrough. Because you don't want a breakthrough if you want to keep your job, because now you set the bar unrealistically high for next year, okay? So it basically a bunch of measurement nerds. It's a bit like procurement. You've turned it into a kind of incremental improvement game where you enjoy the credit for the cost savings, but you never actually are held accountable for the invisible costs and the opportunity costs. Now, if you think about it, the job of marketing is to get people who probably weren't thinking about buying a product to buy it at full price, okay? The job of online marketing is to get someone who would have bought the product anyway to buy it a little bit earlier at a discount. Now, it's good. You should do it, right? You should. I'm clear on this. Mark Ritson's clear on this. You should continue to optimize the last mile. In fact, optimize the last mile first. It's the first thing you should do. Conversion is really important. Overcoming inertia is really important, but it's not the whole of marketing, okay? There's a parallel part of marketing, which is getting people who had never heard of you or weren't inclined to buy you to reappraise you to an extent where they might actually buy you at full price.